All right, Mets fans, buckle up. We're diving deep into Game 3 of the NLDS, that absolute thriller against the Phillies. You sent over a whole stack of articles, live updates, even some reactions blowing up my feed. We're talking total game immersion here.
And what a game it was. This wasn't just another playoff win. This was a statement. The Mets showed the kind of resilience and heart that championship teams are made of.
Okay. Before we even get into the nuts and bolts, set the scene for me. Mets were down 2-1 in this series. Walking into this one, right? Must-win territory. And you know the pressure had to be immense.
Absolutely. And to really grasp the magnitude of this game, we have to rewind a bit. Remember, this Mets team wasn't even on the radar for a lot of folks midseason. They clawed their way into the playoffs on the very last day of the regular season, defying all expectations. So, to go from that nail-biting finish to a potential elimination game, you know the tension at Citi Field had to be thick enough to cut with a knife?
Electric atmosphere, I bet. You could practically hear the roar of the crowd through those live updates.
Citi Field was rocking. Packed house, everyone on their feet, hanging on every pitch, pure electricity. And honestly, the way the game unfolded, they got their money's worth and then some.
All right, so let's talk about the game itself. Sean Manaea. That's the name on everyone's lips right now. This wasn't just a good outing. It was dominance on a whole other level.
He was locked in from the first pitch, 7 innings, a single run. It was masterful, especially given the circumstances. We're talking about a guy who was this close to pitching a complete game shutout in a do-or-die playoff game. That's the stuff of legends.
And you know when you say this close, there's one inning that springs to mind. That 6th inning. Bases juiced nobody out the heart of the Phillies order coming up. I swear my heart skipped a beat. What are the odds a pitcher escapes a jam like that without a scratch?
Slim to none, especially under that kind of pressure. But that's where Manaea showed his mettle. He could have easily let the pressure get to him, but instead he reached back for something extra. That strikeout against Bryce Harper was a clinic in composure. He didn't try to overpower him with the fastball. He went off speed, trusting his movement, and painted the corner. Textbook pitching IQ.
And then to follow that up by getting Castellanos to ground into that double play, that was pure magic. That felt like the turning point right there. You could feel the energy shift in the stadium.
The momentum completely swung in the Mets' favor, and a lot of that comes down to Manaea's mental fortitude. He never panicked, never lost his composure. He just kept making pitches when it mattered most.
And, you know, the crowd felt it, too.
Yeah.
That standing ovation when he finally left the mound in the 8th. It was deafening.
It was about more than just the outs. It was about the grit, the determination, the refusal to crack under pressure, a true leader's performance.
Absolutely. But while Manaea was busy shutting down the Phillies, let's not forget about the Mets' offense. They weren't just along for the ride. They provided some serious firepower.
Exactly. The bats came alive at the perfect time. And it all started with a familiar face coming up clutch in the postseason.
Mr. October himself, Pete Alonso, launching a solo shot off Aaron Nola. It's like he's got Nola's number or something. Speaking of which, isn't there some history between those two? Weren't they college rivals or something like that?
You've got a great memory. They were rivals back in their SEC days. And that history seems to add an extra layer to their showdowns in the majors. It's like Alonso carries this quiet confidence when he faces Nola, a subtle psychological edge.
Whatever it is, it's working. That home run was huge, not just for the scoreline, but for the momentum. And then you had Jesse Winker joining the home run party with his first ever playoff bomb. You could tell how much that one meant to him.
Talk about a confidence booster. Both of those home runs coming early in the game were crucial. It shifted the pressure right onto the Phillies, who were already in a must-win situation.
It really set the tone for the entire game. It felt like every time the Phillies tried to gain a foothold, the Mets were right there to knock them back down. Speaking of which, the Phillies did make things interesting in the later innings.
Right. This game was far from over. It wouldn't be a playoff game without some nail-biting moments.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And the Phillies, they never backed down. They finally scratched a run across in the 7th.
Yeah.
And for a minute there, it felt like, okay, maybe they're going to claw their way back into this thing.
There was definitely a feeling of, here we go again, in the air. The Phillies have that never say die attitude.
Yeah.
And with the tying run at the plate, you could sense the momentum shift.
And this is where the Mets' resilience really shone through. They didn't just try to hold on for dear life. They went right back on the offensive.
Yeah.
2 out hitting at its finest.
A masterclass in clutch hitting. Starling Marte and Jose Iglesias both came up with huge RBI singles. And suddenly what was a 2-1 nail-biter turned into a commanding 6-1 lead.
Talk about flipping the script. 1 minute you're holding your breath wondering if the Phillies are going to tie it up. And the next, Deke, the Mets are blowing the game wide open. Demoralizing for the Phillies, I bet. After they'd fought so hard to chip away at that lead.
It's a testament to the Mets' depth and their ability to maintain focus even under immense pressure. They could easily let up after the Phillies scored, but they kept their foot on the gas. On the flip side, you have to feel for the Phillies. They battled back, showed some grit, but in the end, they just couldn't get that one big hit when they needed it most.
It's amazing how often those small moments end up defining these games, isn't it?
Yeah.
One hit here, one defensive play there, and the entire series could look completely different. But that's baseball, right?
It's a game of inches, of momentum swings, and the Mets rode that wave perfectly in Game 3. Now they're just one win away from the NLCS, and the pressure shifts back to the Phillies, who are facing elimination.
With their backs against the wall. Can they find a way to battle back? Historically speaking, what are the odds of a team overcoming a 2-1 deficit in a best-of-5 series?
It's a tough hill to climb, no doubt. Historically, teams down 2-1 in a best-of-5 series come back to win it all about 30% of the time. So while the odds aren't exactly in their favor, it's definitely not an impossible task. We've seen crazier things happen in the playoffs, and the Phillies have the experience and the talent to pull it off.
30% isn't nothing. That's still a fighting chance.
So as we look ahead to Game 4, what should we be keeping a close eye on? What are the key storylines, the potential turning points that could decide this series?
For the Mets, it all boils down to keeping their foot on the gas. They found their rhythm offensively in Game 3, but can they replicate that same firepower on the road? Playing in Philadelphia is a different animal altogether. That crowd can be relentless, and the pressure can really get to you.
Especially with their season on the line, the Phillies are going to be playing with a sense of desperation, feeding off that home crowd energy. Exactly. And for them, it's about finding a way to solve the Mets pitching. They've got to figure out how to rattle them, disrupt their rhythm, and get to the heart of that lineup. Easier said than done, of course. But if they can generate some early runs, put some doubt in the Mets' minds, it could change the entire complexion of the series.
It's amazing how quickly things can shift in a short series like this. One swing of the bat, one clutch pitching performance, and suddenly you've got a whole new ballgame.
Absolutely. Momentum is such a powerful force in baseball. And right now, the Mets have it on their side, but the Phillies are a proud team, a talented team, and they're not going down without a fight. This series is far from over.
That's what makes this so compelling, right? It's that unpredictable, edge-of-your-seat drama. What a game it was. And you know what? I have a feeling Game 4 is going to be even bigger. The stakes are higher. The pressure is more intense. It's what playoff baseball is all about.
You said it. It's a chess match now. Both managers will be making adjustments, trying to outmaneuver each other. It'll be fascinating to see who can make those in-game adjustments, who can exploit the smallest weaknesses, and ultimately, who wants it more.
I don't know about you, but I'm hooked. Can't wait to see how this unfolds.
Me neither. And you know, after that Game 3 performance, Mets fans have to be feeling pretty good about their chances. But there's still a lot of baseball left to be played. That's the beauty of this game. You never know what's going to happen next.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. We saw the Mets rise to the occasion in front of their home crowd. But can they maintain that same intensity on the road, in the belly of the beast? Or will the Phillies, fueled by their passionate fans, find a way to claw their way back into this series? Buckle up, Mets fans, because this ride is far from over.